Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
So, I'm glad we got this time right now to get into our study and to get back onto the track of, you know, engrossing ourselves into the knowledge that we need. Because at the same time as not really focusing on learning, we're not really engrossing ourselves into the understanding of our culture, our people, and ourselves. So, first of all, let me go ahead and address this now while I have the opportunity. So, I'm all for the Nuwapians being happy about, Baba Yunan being released from prison. Dr. Malachi Z. York is a free man or will be a free man. That's all well and good. But again, I have tried my hardest to actually give their way of thinking a try, and they are a society who believes that focusing on one side of the story is the way to do things. They're not focusing on the full narrative and giving and engrossing that complete and utter intake of exact knowledge into their minds. They only want to focus on the Egyptian aspect and the Nubians, but at the end of the day, the Egyptians and the Nubians are all a part of, if I'm correct, one continent, correct? If it's all a part of one continent, then why are you only focusing on one half of the continent and saying the other half doesn't even exist? Right now, we could be doing a lot better for our people as a whole if we would go back to protecting what was rightfully ours in the first place. While the Nuwapians want to build up temples and mausoleums for the Nubians and for their culture only, they're completely and utterly disrupting the understanding that comes with that real aspect of knowledge, that it's not helping out the black community. It's not actually doing for the black community. What it's doing is it's actually hindering the black community and only pushing the ideology of what sounds like a cultist mentality. So I couldn't get down with it myself, and quite frankly, I don't think if there's anybody else who wants to give this a try, you have to come at it with the mindset that you are joining a cult. And if you're going to be okay with joining a cult, then all right. Now, I've heard from all sides on their end about how they're not a cult. But at the end of the day, they themselves say that they pay attention to the way that words are said and the way people say things. Well, then pay attention to this. You know full well, by definition, what a cult is. Well, what do you think your non-religious study is? And you say non-religious, but yet you say the word gods in your understanding and in your knowledge. You have these gods. You call other people God. You say that they received divinity, which is a religious term. So let's be real. Let's pay attention to what we're actually saying here. You can't say that you're not something that you actually are. And no matter what and how they try to reason about it, the truth of the matter is, whether you want to say that you're not, a cult is a cult. And they are, and they should adhere to those principles that they are. How in the hell does a cult believe it's actually going to make things better for the African Americans on this earth when the entire time the only geographic region they're willing to worry about is theirs and theirs alone? I don't care how many Nubian temples you put up. I'm saying for me, it ain't helping my black tail, because at the end of the day, they already put together three of them. They already put together three of them. I'm not seeing a change in my wages. I'm not seeing me being treated any differently by white people. Do you?
No.
No. No. So then if so I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one that still is being treated the same exact way that I was being treated before. You know, they doing stuff in Atlanta. The problem about it is they only doing stuff for the New Wapians, and that's it. And I've had a conversation with several of them. And I've even talked with Dr. Malachi Z. York's son, Prince York. And I can actually say, from a lot of the things, being as I've joined a lot of his, web shows and stuff like that, I can actually say with his videos, they're actually audios and not videos, but with his stuff that he puts up on YouTube, I can actually say from being in there and carrying conversations with him, I don't think that you can say that you're supporting the African American community and supporting blacks as a whole if the entire time the only person whose success you're worrying about is yours. So far, with all that success that you're doing, the things that you say you're doing is not actually helping the blacks and helping us blacks prosper as an overall people. If you have that much pull and you have that much skill, why are you not taking what you're doing and actually using it to advance African Americans as a whole? Why is it we have to only pay attention to just part of the narrative? Why do we have to only adhere to the teachings of his father? So you're telling me, which, okay, let's be realistic. If you go back, there were several cults that did exist. And each and every one of those cults, you were receiving teachings from one person. This one person was said to have been close to God or been close to some religious deity. I have heard and read their teachings. I have read their books that Dr. Malachi Z. York had. And no matter what they say and no matter how badly they try to fight it, they are by definition a cult. And they can't say that they're not a religion because you use religious terminology. And if you use religious terminology, then by definition, what are you?
Religious.
A religion. So how can they say they believe in their own hypocrisy? They sit here and they say things like, oh, we're not this, we're not that. And they try to put a spin on people's words. But the problem about it is when those words get used back against them, all of a sudden they want to try to be all big and bad. Oh, I'm about to blow the spot up. You're not about to do anything. Because here's the thing. You've been doing the exact same thing for all the years that this whole thing has been out. You've been doing nothing then, and you ain't doing nothing now. You're not helping out the black community. You're not helping out blacks as a whole. What you're doing is you're hindering us. And to tell the truth, in my honest opinion, as a person that is no longer that, if they were not around anymore, I'm being honest with you, I think we would actually have a far better chance at eking out, being able, as a matter of fact, being able to focus our attention on the entire culture of African Americans, the entire culture of blacks, instead of just focusing on one side of the paragraph. A lot of the conversations that and videos I've listened to from Prince York himself, I can actually say this dude is a chauvinistic ass. And I mean that. He is. He's a chauvinistic ass. All he does is pay attention to one thing and one thing only: his own success. But if everybody was just paying attention to their own success and was only worrying about themselves, then answer me this question: how is that saving our people? How is that helping our people? You can get on a YouTube video and talk about Donald Trump. That's nice. But what are you doing to actually advance things? And I know I'm going to receive a lot of heat for this. And I know a lot of people are going to sit there and say, well, what are you doing to help the black community? Well, right now, I can actually say I can only do but so much.
Right.
No matter what I do, no matter what you do, no matter what anybody else does, it's not going to change the narrative of how we as blacks are being treated when the entire time we are mistreating each other. the Nuwapians are not helping the African Americans advance themselves and get themselves any further. They only want to focus on just their people and their people only. Even though Dr. Malachi Z. York was in prison, why was it they were focusing all their attention on trying to get his behind out? But there's African Americans in this world who are incarcerated right now, who, if they have the type of pull like they say they do, Prince York himself says he had so much pull, he got so much business. If you got that so much, then why are you not focusing your attention on helping out the African American community? Why not help out blacks as a whole?
Right.
Yes, your dad is in there. Yes, your dad is in prison. Okay. Instead of sitting there and doing all this campaign to get your daddy out of there, why not sit there? You can do both. You got off days where you're sitting there just chilling. Instead of those off days sitting there just chilling, there are blacks who are still sitting in prison for things they ain't even done, that are worse off than his father, who has an entire group of people backing him. An entire group. So whether he did anything or not, it wouldn't have mattered, because it wouldn't have really helped the situation, and it wouldn't have hindered it if he wasn't there to get his dad out. His father still was coming out eventually. If these two people that were going against him recanted their statements, by law, that means they have to let him go. So by law, he was going to get out either way. So that's why I feel the way I feel about the Nuwapians, and why I choose to no longer be a Nuwapian. Because at the end of the day, I want to focus my attention on telling the truth. They say they hear by the truth, but they only tell part of the truth. And if you're telling part of the truth, what is that called? A lie. It's called a lie. So if you're only telling half of the truth, you're telling a lie. At the end of the day, they only want to take your attention off of talking about slavery. At the end of the day, they have to accept it. We went through it. Our ancestors went through slavery. They want to talk about building a new Wakanda and all that other stuff. If you really want to build a new Wakanda, then tell me, why are we not protecting what we already have? Why are we not protecting our homeland? Our ancestors came from Africa. Africa. But yet we let Africa go to waste. If they want to let Africa go to waste with all that pull you have, with all that money you got, then answer me this question. Why are you not going back over there to protect the people of Africa? Why are you not going to Africa, and instead of building up mausoleums of the Nubians and whatnot, why not take your attention, stop building up those mausoleums of those Nubians, for the Nubians, who were great people in their day and time. Yes, I agree, they were great people in their day and time. Instead of sitting there and doing that and praying to your Egyptian gods, why not sit there and focus on the overall picture? Protect all of Africa, not just part of it. You got pull, you got power like that, then do it. Do it. He talks so much about what he can do, how he do it. He has this, he has that. He has this type of pull, that type of pull. Then Prince York, I give you this challenge. Then change Africa. Go there and fix up the real Wakanda. You building up temples and mausoleums. You got a whole grouping, a whole cult of people willing to follow y'all back and call. Then take those people and fix up Africa. Protect the real Wakanda, the Wakanda that's already been around. Because before any of this, before our people was even slaves, there were dynasties in which we ruled. There were dynasties we ruled even during the times when we were in Egypt. There were dynasties we were ruling. The Nubians were originally Africans. Originally Africans. They came from African tribes. So don't try to get me with this bullcrap. Now, with that said, I just want to say that I'm going to give a real aspect of that knowledge that even the Nuwapians themselves are really afraid of, because they don't even understand. They only pay attention to one part of it. And it's funny to me how you can't tell me you're not a cult if you're telling me the only way you can receive this teaching is by buying this dude's books. So you have to go buy this dude's books. You have to go and get them. You have to. The only way you're going to get these teachers and know this knowledge is if you buy my books. That sounds like a dictator to me. That sounds like a cult leader to me. So I can't receive any of the other teachings from anything else. I can't go do me research. I can't do any of that. I have to pay attention to what you say and only what you say. And then a lot of it doesn't actually make any sense. And they say they adhere to sound right reasoning. But then tell me how some of the things you're saying don't actually sound right. But you say that it's true though. As I say all the time, if it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, Nuwapians will tell you it's a mongoose.
It's a duck.
Thank you. The Nuwapians will tell you it's a mongoose, but it ain't no daggone mongoose, and ain't no extraterrestrial mongoose neither. It's a daggone duck.
Duck is duck.
I've never met a people who talk about religious things so much, and this religion, that religion, this religion, that religion, but you don't call yourself a religion. You say you're not religious. Well, you can't say you're not religious if you're talking about religion. I don't need to talk about religion. See, the thing is, when I say that I'm not, I don't talk about it. I don't talk about it. I focus on the scientific and the educational aspects of it. I start talking about the educational parts of it, where I give that education about it without necessarily even talking about it. Yet I'm not religious. So I know I'm gonna really get a lot of heat for this, but whatever, because I am gonna put this one up, But at the end of the day, as I said, I no longer follow that group, and if there's anybody else that is continuing to follow it, please pay key attention to what these people are actually saying. Pay key attention to the terminology in which they're giving. Pay key attention to how they're saying things, because you might be being duped and you don't understand that you might be. I mean, a cult is a cult. I refuse to only be able to adhere to only part of what I'm being taught, because everything I have to be taught has to come from one guy. It has to come from his books, his teachings. You have an entire council of people who decide things for just the Nuwapians. I'm black, man. I'm not Nuwapian. I'm not Nubian. I'm black. At the end of the day, that's what I am. You can try to talk about my ancestors all you want, but I'm not my ancestors. And whether they want to accept it or not, they're not those goddamn people. They can say, "Well, I'm Nubian all the way through." Okay, that's nice that you are. But why should you have to have a religious base that's on it based upon the fact that you are Nubian all the way through? And I have to adhere to the teachings coming from somebody who actually is, and I'm not. So I will never be able to actually understand it from your point of view, because I'm not fully Nubian. And because I'm not fully Nubian, that makes me not worthy of your teachings. Really? In my honest opinion, the Nuwapians have always been and always will be a group of people that takes advantage of people who just have money to be able to do the things and completely advance their understanding of how Nuwapians do things. I don't care what anybody else says, but regardless, I'm not taking my teachings from a dude, who is a religious cult leader, not religious, because a cult is a religion. I will not take my teachings from a dude who is a cult leader. And I've listened to as many videos as I can from those in the Nuwapian community. And one guy literally got onto, the backs of Time magazine because they were talking about how the Nuwapians are a cult. And I did read that article that they said about it. I did. I read that article they said about it. And I'm sorry, but I don't disagree with what they're saying. I don't. A lot of what they're saying in that article actually does make sense. You have no proof or anything to prove otherwise. Because at the end of the day, if you say you're not a cult, and you say you're not a religion, then why are you praying to gods? If you say you're not a cult, you say you're not a religion, why do you have religious deities as symbols? Why do you talk about divinity? Why do you talk about, crystalline energy in your blood that makes you a direct connection to God? These are not my words. These are Prince York's words. These are not his words either. They're his father's words. His father said that. So then if you're saying these religious terminologies, again, they pay attention to the use of words. They pay attention to the use of words. I literally watched an entire video with a guy who broke down an entire freaking court order against Dr. Malachi Z. York, and he picked out words. So they pay attention to the terminologies you use to brainwash you. So, being as I did pay attention to that, my whole understanding of this is, if you pay attention to words and you use religious terminology, then therefore you are a religion. When you look at every religion that exists, Christianity, Catholicism, even Muslims, all use religious terminology. They use religious terminology. They do. The Muslims give God a name called Allah.
Yeah, they do.
The Christians give God a name and call him Yahweh. The Catholics actually those are the Hebrews. They give God a name, they call him Yahweh.
Okay.
The Christians just call him God. The Hebrews call him Yahweh, Abba Father. The Catholics, they call him God. No matter which name you give God or title you give God, he's God at the end of the day. And no matter how they try to dress it up, the understanding of this is the simple fact that every single last type of historical megapower that has ever existed, these historic megapowers all, for some odd reason, have been wiped out the exact same way every time. They either used up all of their materials, or which is all of their resources. They use up all their resources, or what ends up happening, they end up getting defeated in some way in warfare.
A serious error has occurred. A serious error.
So, I gave it a try. I do embrace my culture as a whole. And I love everything that the Egyptians did. And I pay attention to the key aspects of the Egyptians that actually did make sense, and how they revolutionized the world itself. Mm-hmm. The Nuwapians don't want to pay attention to how the Egyptians revolutionized the world. They want to pay attention to the Nubians who came in and conquered the Egyptians. Whether you want to accept that or not, the Nubians did only rule in Egypt for 200 years. For 200 years. After those 200 years, the Nubians got wiped out. So why do you want me to pay attention to a group of people that can only hold their position of power for 200 years? Who came in and went against people of color that were their own color? Whether you want to adhere to that understanding, that knowledge that they're talking about, where, the Egyptians were also mixed with the Sudanese, they were light skinned and all that other stuff. Even if you want to say all that. Yes, but that much is true though. Yes, I will admit, yes, they did start mixing with other ethnicities. Because then when they started mixing those other ethnicities, they did start to become of lighter skin. I will admit that. Because if you go and you look at Cleopatra's entire family.
Well, that's what happens when, like you said, you mix it with other races. Yeah.
Because there's no such thing as a pure race. There's no such thing as a pure race. Even the Nubians were a mixture of another race mixed within them. There's no such thing as a pure race.
We don't know what it is, though. I said we don't know what it is.
No, we don't know what it is because there's not much history of the Nubians. as a historian myself, which I love history and every aspect of it, I will say, without a shadow of a doubt, though, at the end of the day, I refuse to seriously sit here and believe that the only part of our history that we should pay attention to is just the simple fact that we came from Egyptian ancestors who ruled with power. Yes, that's a good narrative to believe in, that blacks have power, because we do. But at the same time, if you really want us to get there and get back to being as powerful as we were, then you got to put in the work to do so. Building up freaking temples for you to teach the teachings of a dude who is a cult leader is not the goddamn way to do it. I refuse to sit there and think that I have to go to these locations only to be able to go get the teachings of this dude. So I gotta throw my entire life off to go to these places where he's doing these teachings and only go there. Now you can say, well, he can't be everywhere at one time. You're right, he can't. He can't be everywhere at one time. You're absolutely correct. But I will say this. Even though he can't be everywhere at one time, why is it that these teachings are only understood and understandable by those who are Nuwapian? You can't tell me it doesn't sound like a cult. You have your own language, your own dress code. You have your own calendar, your own everything. At the end,
to say it would make sense.
At the end, and it doesn't.
Because even if you make up your own, it's a language that you made up. So that means it doesn't make sense.
It means it doesn't exist.
And it
because
doesn't
it's a language you made up. So if it's a language you made up, that means that it's a language only for just those set of people. And you can't sit here and expect the entire world to decide to all change to Nuwapians and completely erase that slavery ever happened. Yes, I won't.
So quite frankly, you'll be saying their language, but more than likely you'll probably be saying something you're not supposed to be saying.
It's not even that. It's the simple fact that you're only going to be able to understand just their language. Just their language. You're not going to be speaking a language that actually exists. Period. Because they never said that their language comes from the ancient Egyptians. They never said their language comes from the Nubians. They said they made up their own language. That it's their language. So I will never be able to understand that as to how you expect me to believe that it makes sense for you to spread this hypocrisy to the black community that they're the only way that the blacks can be saved. No. If that's the answer, then go ahead and kill my behind right now. I'd rather go ahead and die right now than, I'm gonna be honest, I'd rather continue to suffer under racism than to have to deal with these jokers. Because I'm just saying from my own perspective. And I've given theirs a chance. I've read the books. I've learned the language. I've learned the culture. And at the end of the day, no matter what they say, it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. You want to try to say that people are extraterrestrials coming from a whole nother planet? So then I ask you, then show me geographically where this planet is located that you're saying that all of this intelligence is coming from. Show me where in space this planet is located. And don't make up a place and try to sit here and sell me some bullcrap. Oh, it's located in quadrant CR17Z15-35 UQ ABCDEFG HIJK element of P. No, you don't need to throw in every letter of the daggone alphabet that you're missing. Because again, even that doesn't make sense. If you really want to try to save the black community, go out there and support the black community. Go out there and actually support these people. Start making change. If you get enough power to be able to start making change happen, then make the change happen. Stop sitting there and waiting for the change to happen with you not doing anything. I wish there were a lot more I could do for my people. I really do. But I can't. The only thing I can do is continue to do my job as a teacher and continue to educate these children with the real knowledge. Not that half cockamamie bullcrap that the Nuwapians are pushing with that Egyptian god this and Egyptian god that. The Egyptians had their chance. So did the Nubians. But they don't exist no more. You want to try to bring something back, but while you're bringing something back, you're diluting and destroying something that already exists. What are they doing for the Africans? What are they doing for Africa, period? Nothing. They sitting there behind in American cities and American states, building up this, building up that, but none of them have gone over to Uganda. None of them went over to Kenya to even support change within that country. A country that's overran with militia that can be stopped. Because if all these people who have so much pull and so much power were to band together, they can make some change happen in that country. But too bad they don't want to. Because they only want to believe one narrative of the story. I'm not believing in it no more. Because I refuse to be told these lies and only believe only half of what actually is going on. Because there's a lot more going on than even they understand. And I refuse to have to stop and think about this God beaming down energy into my body from the crystalline universe. Man, whatever. You sound like one of them dudes on crystal meth. Man, I ain't even gonna lie. A lot of this crap that they're selling to people sounds like a lot of bull crap that somebody on shrooms or LSD would really start to talk about. You've got to be high to understand this stuff. This ain't no true knowledge. This is made up knowledge. Why is it that his father is the only person out of that entire group who's ever received this knowledge? It only came to him and only him. I'm confused. If it came to you and only you, then maybe you made it up. Maybe you made it up. Maybe in some way, shape, or form, you chose to create this notion and identity of a religious understanding that you thought would be able to get blacks. As most cult leaders do, they always say that they're the only ones who have the ability to interpret that knowledge. They're the only ones who that knowledge was given to them. God gave them this divine understanding. I've heard it all before and seen it all before. A cult is a cult, whether you want to try to change the meaning of what a cult is or whatever. But they can't change Oxford Dictionary. They can try to create their own and say that, oh, well, we don't adhere to Oxford Dictionary, we only adhere to ours. Okay, but does that mean that the meaning is still not what it means? Just because you change it, it doesn't matter. You have an entire existence that exists in a country that adheres to the Oxford Dictionary. Now you can say, well, we're going to go back over to Egypt then. Well, why ain't y'all over there?
Right.
Why ain't y'all over there? Then take your freaking hypocritical religion, take it back over there across seas to Egypt, and let it stay over there in Egypt. Don't try to fool these Americans, because honestly, you know better than these terrorist groups that exist. That goes out here and brainwashes innocent people. So that's all in a nutshell as far as that goes. I just really want people to be careful of these type of groups who honestly take advantage of the weak and the downtrodden, and they prey on innocent people and try their best to get them to understand things from their perspective only. And what's sad is they're only willing to adhere to just their own knowledge. They're not willing to even try some of the knowledge that actually does exist. I've said it and I will always say it, and they don't talk about it. But let's really take this knowledge that these white people are teaching us and let's use it against them. I can only make this point proven. The Nuwapians, whether they want to admit it or not, they sit here and give credit to President Barack Obama. But here's the thing. Obama took that white knowledge that these white folks taught him from Harvard, and you know what he did? Or Yale. I don't know which one it was, but was it Harvard or was it Yale? It was Harvard. Yeah.
I think it was.
He took that knowledge.
And Michelle went to Princeton.
Yeah, she went to Princeton. That much I do remember. She went to Princeton. They went to Ivy League schools. Let's just leave it at that. They went to Ivy League schools where that knowledge is definitely Caucasian. And he took that knowledge that these white people had and used it against them and became the president of the United States of America. And he actually tried his best to make as much things change in this world as possible. But we as selfish blacks wanted things to only go our way. We wanted things to be the way we wanted to be. Oh, he needs to only focus on just us. Well, it's not just us. He's the president of the United States of America, not the president of just blacks. It's of the United States of America. He can't do that even if he tried. As much as I wish that he did push more things for blacks and actually get more things done for blacks, yes. But at the end of the day, he couldn't anyway. First of all, the Republicans created within the Senate a group that kept blocking everything he pushed called the Tea Party. Excuse me. They created the Tea Party to try to stop Obama from ever advancing any bill or anything he wanted to do. This man had to sign a lot of executive orders. Donald Trump couldn't even eclipse as many executive orders that President Barack Obama had to sign. And a lot of the executive orders got shot down. Overturned. They didn't want to see a black man succeed. Let me put it to you like this. A lot of people don't notice. Yes, we have racism in this country, but this country is a country that was built off of racism in the first place. Its actual history literally comes from the fact that it came from stolen land. From stolen land. And you can't sugarcoat that, change it, or even try to wish-wash it. No. At the end of the day, it came from stolen land. You are a country that literally was stolen. You are a country that literally came into existence from being stolen from somebody else. And then this country's actual history is nothing but a complete mockery and a knockoff of Great Britain. And yet you have the United States fighting Great Britain in the war, which really to me sounds an awful lot like this was just supposed to be a way to try to give the United States history. They tried their best to try to push as much history for this country as much as they could. But even this country's history is bullcrap. Now the Nuwapians don't talk about that. What they talk about is Minister Farrakhan and the Muslims and this and that and the extraterrestrials up in space being beamed down from the stars, and the stars is a god and the ground is a god and the crap that comes out of your mouth is a god. That's the way I look at it. And you worship the crap that comes out your mouth.
This could be the last ad you ever
So,
hear on Pandora. With Pandora Plus, ad-free listening, skips.
That's why I choose to do what I do. And I can say personally, I would rather see my people succeed. I can speak for myself.
For less than
You know,
$5 a month, it's
I get excited when I see people succeed. I'm a teacher. Being as I taught so many kids that I did, I watched as each child that I was able to educate grew up to being adults that really had a lot of knowledge. And a lot of them went on to do a lot of great things. A lot of great things. Some of them for the African American communities. Some of them not. Some of them tried and got stopped. There is suppression against blacks, yes, and I'm not denying that. But then let's really talk about that. Let's not talk about this crystalline energy in our DNA. Let's not sit here and talk about how we're receiving divinity from the gods, and we need to adhere to that divinity in order to make ourselves, more of the gods that we were back in the past. You weren't a god in the past, bro. You are a sperm egg in your daddy's nutsack. That's what you were. But that's the truth, though. You can look at me like that if you want, but that's the truth. Back in the past, Dr. Malachi Z. York, Prince York, his whole family, they all were one single solitary thing. They didn't come from no extraterrestrial planet. They came from sperm eggs. They came out of their daddy's nutsack. He was an egg in his daddy's nutsack. His daddy was an egg in his daddy's nutsack. And his daddy's daddy was an egg in his daddy's nutsack. They all were eggs in their father's nutsack. And they were ejected into a woman, into her ovaries, through the whole entire reproductive organ that is the woman's vagina, and they were made through procreation. That's just the God's honest truth. Believe it if you don't want to, but that's just the truth, man. Believe it if you don't want to. If you don't want to believe it, that's on you. If you want to believe it, go right ahead. You're free to do whatever you want in this country. Matter of fact, you're free to do whatever you want in this world. Period. You want proof of change? The Middle East passed a bill years ago that now allows women to drive. It allows women to drive. Saddam Hussein would have literally strapped a bomb to the car the minute the woman would have gotten in. Oh, you want to get in the car? Boom! Hell no. No women drive in this country. Y'all don't even breathe in this country. Y'all supposed to hold your breath when a man comes near you. But change happened in this world, and they begin to make things happen for women. Why? Because of the Western culture. Because of us. The United States has so much more pull and power than people understand. Think about it like this. They say they're $1 trillion. They're $1 trillion deficit. I have never seen, and if you had $1 trillion in your bank account, would you even be on the streets, period? You couldn't even afford to be on the streets. No. Because honestly, you need at least $5, $6 from that to be on the streets. As soon as you get some change, my brother, change. Here you go, man. That 50 cent, guess what? Bow, it disappears. 50 cent came off your $1 trillion deficit. It still don't mean you can eke out a living. You $1 trillion, bro. This life, and according to the Nuwapians, the next life, the life after, whatever they want to say, which they do believe in the afterlife. Sorry about that. They do believe in the afterlife. And you gotta forgive me. I have a bit of, I don't know what it is. It's like a cold, or I don't know. It's mostly my allergies, dealing with my sinuses. So I'm gonna be stopping from time to time, and I try not to, but they believe in an afterlife and believe that there's life after death, and that you go into your duat, which you go in there, and your duat is supposed to be a complete and utter creation of your perfect world. But then if you don't, then your soul just drips in existence for all eternity. That's what the Egyptians believe in, and that's what they believe in, because a lot of what the Egyptians believe in, they do. So I don't care. If you wear their symbols, dress with their attire, then you believe in what they believe in. So I don't care what they think. At the end of the day, as I said, if it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, what is it?
Duck.
Right. It ain't no freaking mongoose. It's a goddamn duck. So.
Not no goddamn mongoose.
Exactly. It's a daggone duck. I'm not knocking the works and the success of Dr. Malachi Z. York. And I'm knocking the works and the success of not even doctor, because he's not a doctor, but of Prince York. I'm not knocking none of their works. But what I am saying is, with all of that you've done, and with all that ego that you have, even within your own religion, and I'm going to call it what it is, even within your own religion, why do you not believe in peace and prosperity for all people? Why do you believe in the same daggone things that the Muslims believe in? That you should only focus on your people and your people only. If you read the Quran specifically says that you should not have dealings with anybody who does not believe in Islam. To make sure, I don't want to be quoting, I don't want to say want to be, but I don't want to quote something that I shouldn't be quoting. Because I have, later, watch me install an update, I'm not doing that right now. I had the Quran with me, and I can read to you verbatim what it says. Okay. and bear with me. Okay. Okay, so this is not the one that has the audio to it. This is a different one. Anyway, so it says, who believe in, I can't say that word because I have it in another translation. Okay. So they say in verse 5, they are on guidance from their Lord, and they are the successful. Verily, those who disbelieve, it is the same to them whether you warn them or do not warn them, they will not believe. Allah has set a seal on their hearts and on their hearings, and on their eyes there is covering. There will be a great torment. So they believe that if you don't believe in Islam, you're going to be tormented. Then they say, and of mankind there are some hypocrites who say, we believe in Allah in the last day, while in fact they do not believe. They deceive Allah, and those who believe, while they only deceive themselves, perceive not. In their hearts is a disease, and Allah is increased their disease. A painful torment is theirs because they used to tell lies. So they're saying that if you don't believe in Islam, there's a disease in you. And you're going to be tormented and you're going to die. So anybody who is not Muslim or doesn't believe in Islam, all of us are infected with a disease. And we all are going to die. Why do we need to believe that? Why worry about that disease? Why not say something like, oh, if you don't believe, then that's your free choice to be able to not believe. Instead of saying there's a curse on you from Allah or from God. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I've always understood that when you're a God, you're not going to curse, harm, or destroy anybody. That you want to rule with peace, love, and tranquility. That you want to rule with happiness in your heart. But I'm supposed to believe that because I'm not Muslim, there's a curse in me? I'm supposed to believe that because I'm not Muslim, I'm going to die even though your God's name is Allah and you gave him a name Allah, which in Arabic is actually God. Let me make sure I'm correct. What does Allah mean in Arabic?
I can't translate into Arabic yet.
That's a daggone shame. Technology can't even do it. That's how you know, man. Craziness out here. People need to wake up. I stay woke. Give me a minute while I look this up.
I guess I'm woke-ish.
Yeah. You'll get there.
Woke-ish.
They say it's the Aramaic word for God in the language of the Assyrian Christians. The Assyrian Christians. So it means God. It means God. It means God. And it means God. Right. Now, I just did my research. They say that they're the oldest religion. But they didn't start to exist until 600 years after Christianity. 600 years after Christianity. And yet, when you listen to some of the things of the Nuwapians, it seems more like to me that their teachings are like that of Islam. And it's like that of the Muslims. And I just refuse to believe in something like that. And I hope that anybody who hears this and you are Nuwapian, you are free to believe whatever you want to believe in. I'm not trying to deter you from your religion. Go ahead and believe in it. But I'm just saying, from me to you, more power to you. I just will not be believing in this. And I mean, I literally had an entire friendship with a person based upon this faith, and I honestly felt like he wouldn't have been friends with me if I wasn't Nuwapian. And that's ridiculous, because both of us are black. Why can't we just be friends because of that? Why do we have to be friends because I had to believe in your Nuwapic way of doing things, but because I don't believe 100% in it, and I only like the history that comes with the Egyptians and my people, because of that, oh, I can't be friends with you. That's kind of messed up, bruh. It really is kind of messed up. I mean, I don't think I would ruin an entire friendship because of it. That's just stupid. But honestly, I feel like he has no other choice. Because again, when you're in a cult, that's what you have to do. You have to only associate with those people who are in that cult. You can't associate with anybody else. That's sad. That's really sad. Anyway. Just to give you a broad base of some of the crap that they try to talk about. Because I have their website. Again, as I said, I used to be Nuwapian, so I'm not making this stuff up. So if anybody tries to disagree with me, well, that's not what they saying. Okay, I'm reading
directly. Something different.
Right, then show me something different, because I mean, I'm literally reading from their website, and unless you're telling me that their website is wrong and their website was hacked by, extraterrestrials, okay. I don't think that's a good thing. These extraterrestrials shouldn't be attacking your website, bro. Maybe you need to get rid of it.
Sam 76 gives you the taste and hoppy character of an IPA with the clean, crisp finish of a lager. When you put a craft ale and lager together, you get a sound you've never heard before. Crushable craft beer. Sam 76 in a can, because only a dumbass would try to crush a bottle. Beer can be busted massive to the flavor responsibly.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to actually go to it because I didn't have it saved in my bookmark. But you have it in yours, right? You should have it in yours. Their website. Where's your tablet? Let me see your tablet, please. No, I really did not. I have mine.
Well, you know.
Excuse me. I said website, not Facebook.
I know, but you can go to the website through the Facebook.
No, I'm not going to the website through Facebook. I need to go onto that website through the website. Wow, you got a lot of... There it is. You got a lot of pages open. You have to close some of those out.
Well,
Anyway. So, I'm on their website for their cult called, you know... So they're petitioning the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and one other for the Consul General and diplomat to release Dr. Malachi Z. York back to the Republic of Liberia. And they on change.org. They're doing everything they can to try to get this guy out. Every single last one of them, which is their teacher. Okay? Again, you say teacher, that's a religious term. And now that's a religious terminology. He calls himself, they call him their Messiah. Messiah is a terminology. If you look up the definition of the word Messiah, it states a person that has come to save you. It says the promised deliverer of the nation. It says a leader or savior of a particular group or cause. The leader or savior. So if he's the leader or the savior of a particular group or cause, then that means that he considers himself a religious deity. They had something called the New Outer Formation. Okay, and this, I'm not making none of this stuff up. This is all of their work. This guy has books and everything. They have their own entire, you would try, if you want to call it, their own entire government board, if you will, that sanctions their entire religion. But yet they say they're not a religion. If you're not a religion, then what are you? They can't tell you what they are, and they can't describe what they are because they're made up. They are created from the insanity of some old crazy dude who I believe was on psychedelics when he received these visions and teachings and stuff like that. To each their own with the way that they want to believe in anything. And again, I'm not telling you not to believe in this. If you want to believe in Nuapia, if you want to be Nuapic, that's on you. You know, I only care about the history of my people, and I only care about the history of where my people came from. I want to know it all. I don't want to have to only take my knowledge and understanding of my people and only focus on just one part, and that's just the Egyptians. I don't want to do that. I want to focus on all of them as a whole. The African tribes, the African kingdoms. You know, I want to focus on the Nubians, the Nubian kings, the Nubian queens. I want to focus on the African kings. I want to focus on all of it. The history of our people and where we came from does not and did not, that much I agree with them, did not start with slavery. And yes, it is kind of bullcrap that we're being fed only part of it through the United States, and that's just the part that they honestly, in my honest opinion, that they profit from. And it's not understanding what they profit from, because they profit from constantly telling you that you came from slavery. Instead, why is it that a country that literally took people that had slaves, when Egypt was taking Hebrew slaves, what happened? Egypt got wiped out. The same thing happened to Rome when they were taking slaves. The same thing happened to Greece when they were taking slaves. But yet, for some odd reason, those places don't exist, but the United States still does. The fix has always been in for this country itself, literally because they're trying to actually fix their mistake. And that's why I use the word fix. I'm not saying this country is already broken and always will be. I mean, it literally came from nothing. It came out of nowhere and existed. How? Huh. So, they pray to the god of creation, Futet. And again, Futet, he is supposed to be this god in ancient Egypt that's the god of creation. So they adhere to the understandings and the teachings of the ancient Egyptians. So those ancient Egyptians considered those beings gods, which God or gods is a religious terminology. I don't need to say it no more than to basically understand that this entire thing of Nuwapia is and always will be a religion. So if there are those of you who are Nuwapian, you're free to believe whatever you want. I'm not telling you not to believe in them. I'm just trying to tell you the truth that honestly, I feel like 9 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10, they're probably not going to talk to you about, because they don't want to discuss that. They want to only focus on getting their cult leader out of jail. That they're willing to petition to get this man out, but they're not petitioning for change in Africa. They're not petitioning for change for the black communities. They're not petitioning and joining marches. They're not going out there and doing the things they need to do to help out the black communities. I don't care if you marched in a parade with the LGBT community. I understand that. More power to you for that. And thank goodness you did that. Yes. But there's even people within their religion who was against that. Really? But there's a lot within Christianity, within Catholicism, within Judaism, within Islam, where a lot of people and a lot of those who worship that religion are not against the teachings of that religion. A lot of them are for it. And if they mean they're for it, they are for it. They don't even have complete organization within their own entire religion. You have a council going against a council in a religion. Just tell me, how does that make sense? And why should I even pay attention to what you're saying when y'all can't even agree with each other?
Haven't you heard of that? Make love, not war.
Thank you. But I refuse to believe in your ways if the entire time what you're saying don't make sense, and you say we adhere to sound right reasoning. Well, what you're saying don't sound right. That's all I'm saying. What you're saying doesn't sound right. You can't say that it sound right but don't sound right, because that's an oxymoron. Something can't sound right but then don't sound right, because those two things cancel themselves out. You can't take a positively charged ion and put it next to a positively charged ion. They're going to just bounce off each other. You can't take a negatively charged ion, put it next to a negatively charged ion. They're going to bounce off each other. You got to put a positive with a negative, and it creates some type of reaction. Come on now. That's basic science right there. I think honestly, man, our people deserve better than what's happening to them. Right now, these white people are laughing at us because we have turmoil within our own entire ethnicity.
Exactly.
And they created it.
Black on black crime, black on black, whatever.
It's just hate all around for just our people alone. So, I'm not being some super black activist. I do have a right to want to see my people treated better. But I also have a right to want to see all people treated better. I'm just saying, why stop there? If you can start to try to spread that same love you have for your own people to everybody, doesn't everybody deserve love in some way? We all say it's love out there for everybody. But yet we only talk about love as far as menage a trois. You know, having sex. Or getting into a relationship. A menage a trois is a threesome. I misspoke. Excuse me. So, just saying, we shouldn't just be able to spread that love only because people want to have sex. We should be spreading love just because we actually want to see people make it. I get proud seeing people have success. Even if I don't necessarily have enough of it myself. I have enough that I can be happy. And even in spite of all that I have, I'm willing to be happy. And I'm willing to enjoy my life. Dr. Malachi Z. York will tell you and continue to teach that happiness only comes from one thing. It comes from a God. It doesn't have to come from their God. You can believe in whatever God you want to believe in, but I'm going to continue to do my thing and teach this real knowledge. The knowledge they're not willing to teach. I'm going to keep continuing to spread that understanding that these kids out here in this world today need the real knowledge that they're scared of. They need the real knowledge these white people are scared of. That whole understanding that if we take what they learn, and if we take what they don't want us to learn, their education, and use it against them, they're afraid of that. They did their best to try to get rid of Barack Obama when he used their educational system against them. They did their best they could. Him and Michelle graduated from what would be considered seriously white schools. They did.
Prestigious ones.
Prestigiously blonde-haired and blue-eyed. And yet they graduated from those schools. And they made a name for themselves, still being talked about today. If we had the type of system that some of these other countries had, I'm telling you, everybody would have wanted Obama back as president. Because it's better than this orange Cheeto clown. And he looks like an actual clown. There's so much that you can do. Let's try to learn from these other countries. You know, Syria, Egypt, Egypt, even they overthrew some of their leaders. They went out there in those streets, they protested. They didn't riot and destroy things. They protested and protested to that government. Every single last person protested to that government to have that person overthrown. And he was gone. In the Middle East, they did the same thing. Gone. So I'm trying to understand, why do I need to understand that building up these temples and mausoleums to continue to spread the name of your cult and put these places up where your cult can continue to spread its lies that it's talking about? That's the only way for my people to be saved. Screw that, bruh. I refuse.